Caped Crusader is one of those superheroes that has so many different incarnations throughout the years, starting all the way back in the 60s with Adam West to the likes of Michael Keaton. No, not the Tim Burton one all the way back in '89, but the somewhat continued one in 2023's The Flash. Most of Batman's basic understandings are this: he must wear a bat-shaped outfit, he must solve the issues of crime and justice to bring down whatever, crime rig there is, and then his parents die by Joe Chill. Wait, it was the Joker in the Tim Burton one. What about the Teen Titans Go to the movies? What about that one? Didn't, that is not good. Okay, maybe things aren't perfect for understanding the origins and reasons on why he does what he does, but in my opinion, Bruce's parents are something to move on from. Within the media cycle of movies and TV shows, they always seem to portray their death as an act of vengeance. It feels like they do the death, they show the pearls in the wallet, but that's kind of it for their characters. Might just be me. Yes, their death is impactful to the introduction and sometimes used for a corrupt angle, but they don't do anything else with this idea or trauma. Showing their deaths is not enough for modern audiences, so you have to go in the Batman or Telltale angle route, or you can go in the better route, which is... In this film, we see the consequences of crime and how people are affected by it, but it's really about how people move on from this, or how, rather, they don't move on from it. Before anything needs to happen, we need to talk about where the parents' deaths come from. So let's back it up with a little history lesson in... Okay, that's far back in history. Let's look at the first time it's used, and then the most popular version of this comics-wise. We see that this is simply how that they get shot. It's not really any better, but it's more illustrated. You can see the whole kind of dialogue rather than just murder. Let's look at a more recent version. In this story of Batman the Three Jokers, we open the pages to see the many scars and battles that have affected Bruce throughout the years. Catwoman, Bane, Joker, and most importantly, his parents' death. This is how Bruce looks back to the moments and that lead him to be the Batman. Some may interpret this opening as a sense of vengeance for the character, but as the comic goes on, Bruce's vengeance evolves. Here we see that Joe Chill is ill and the Joker has kidnapped him in a very Batman Beyond Return of the Joker kind of way. He's literally taken him from his hospital bed just to fuck with him.
Make Daddy proud. Deliver the punchline.
Moving on forward, we see that Joe has been trying to get his mail to Bruce since being imprisoned, yet people have always stopped him from reaching to the boy. I mean, Jesus Christ, he's been doing it for what, 20 years? Just send him one letter. What's the issue? As things evolve in the third act, we can see him confess as the Joker tries to make him the perfect villain. Very 89, if you will. Like, he literally turns the murder of Bruce's parents into the Joker, like the film. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just very similar. Even the man who killed his parents, Batman must always save those around him. The different levels of how people can change. Now, we see this conversation evolves Bruce's mythos into a complex piece of storytelling. We will always see the murderer, but he also sees how remorseful a man can become. He clearly made a mistake. The reason why I bring this comic up is because I wanted to show an understandable example of his parents using the source material around the death rather than showing off the murder and really getting nothing more. It needs to be better than using it for vengeance. In the movie The Mask of the Phantasm, we can see that Batman is still not over his past. He talks to their graves, swearing his mission is important, until we hear the introduction of Andrea Bulma. She is talking to someone off in the distance. To see Bruce looks over confused and amazed as she's actually talking to her mum's grave. No surprise, you're in a graveyard. This aligns us as the audience to see them being one and the same. This simple parallel of comfort leads us to enjoy their interactions as they begin to become a couple. Now, for the context of this film, Mask of the Phantasm was released on a small theatrical run on a very, very short notice. Because of that short notice, it failed at the box office. It did become financially successful, however, due to home videos and kind of VHS tapes. Mask of the Phantasm was the only animated Batman film to be given a theatrical release until the release of Batman Killing Joke in 2016. But all of that was really thrown out the window with the full theatrical release of the Lego Batman movie in 2017, a year later. Now, with these recent editions of animated movies being in cinemas, I want to look back at the first original one. Mask of the Phantasm was released on 1993. That is before all of the Christopher Nolan movies, all of these newer releases with the new DCU The Batman. So when I saw this movie in cinemas due to re-releases, I didn't realize how impactful this was to the character. From going my house to the cinema, it took about a 20-minute bus ride, which within this bus ride, I looked up the cast and crew and kind of the envision that they wanted to do with this film. I knew it was a new type of origin where we flash back and forth to Andrea and now. I read the synopsis, which is where I found out what was happening. It was when Batman is accused of several murders, he decides to fight against a criminal called the Phantasm, who is related to his former girlfriend Andrea Beaumont and his father Kyle Beaumont. I'd like to mention, because it failed at the box office, many people consider this film to be a cult classic, and I fully agree with that statement. Now, I'm going to go through this film with the plots and notes to explain why I think this depiction of Martha and Thomas's death is what I wanted for so long, and how it's perfect for a modern audience member to see why Batman does what he does. Within the film, Gotham is as gloomy as it can be, so this opening credit depicts this gloomy Gotham as we zoom into a casino building, with this classic Batman beatdown where we get introduced to the themes of crime and mystery as we see the Phantasm enter the building through this ghostly mist. For this initial opening, I love how even the criminals think it's Batman, and how they are similar with and without the masks on. Even if you don't know what's going on, you can see the similarities: the cape, the design, the mask, the white glowing eyes, the fear in the enemies. And I just want to say that I love how the Phantasm is meant to deceive people, remind them of a ghost. I like the Phantasm means that, but I just think it's a neat idea that they really lean into that. As Batman is distracted with other criminals, the Phantasm kills Chucky Stahl in a very Incredibles opening kind of way, either the car going into another office. Chucky is dead and Batman finds his way to inspect a piece of glass, where then we cut to Andrea's introduction about her and this councilman Arthur need to sort out the family finances, since it's been 10 years since she was in Gotham and since she's seen Bruce. Bruce is having a classic party in his mansion where Arthur arrives to basically flex that he's been in contact with her, reminding Bruce he goes into a dark room as he's not been the best since her. Now, looking up at Thomas and Martha, we get a flashback and a reminder on how they first met. They only met because of the parents' death. Like I talked about earlier, we get this dynamic where Andrea knows Bruce, this billionaire playboy, but Bruce is head over heels for her, explaining how he made a vow to them. As we cut back to the first outing of Bruce, stopping a robbery but not really being Batman yet. He's the man in the mask, but the voice is off and the costume is more the man-like. After seeing Batman's outing, we cut back to the mansion where we see that Bruce knows he needs more out of his costume. He needs to strike fear in the enemies as Andrea walks in to interrupt the mission. She is subconsciously confusing Bruce and reminding him that there's more out there than just the vow. This bright and shiny day that they're in really contrasts the dark and gloomy room that he's alone in. Moving along the main plot, we see that Buzz is paying his respects to Chucky's soul, where it's time for him to pay his sins instead. The ghostly figure of the Phantasm frightens Buzz, with then killing Buzz, and the majority of people thinking it's the stinking bat who did it, because now it's been more than one related crime. The news is broken out that the Batman is killing people, and specifically Mr. Volestra's old people. So the councilman and everyone wants to get the bat and wants to figure out why he's doing what he's doing. Arthur, the new councilman, wants to go after the bat. Gordon knows Batman doesn't kill and defends him, where we see that Bruce is listening. With him listening, however, I don't understand how Batman is not cold. He's up like 50 flights of stairs and he's outside the window. So when they try and catch him, he obviously doesn't go because he knows there's a trap. And because of this, he's more determined than ever to solve this issue. He goes to Buzz's swamping, where he runs into his parents' grave. Taking a minute, he pays respects to them, but because of that, he's close to Andrea's grave, where Andrea is introduced once again, looking at her mother's grave, talking to her, but Andrea sees Batman, chases towards the grave, and makes the connection of Bruce being Batman. I will say, I remember watching and thinking that is some guessing on her part. Like, she's correct, she knows it's him. With this newfound revelation, Andrea is distracted over dinner with the amulet in hand. We see Batman watching from afar, sneaking into their conversation as they talk about Andrea's father not being able to make it Gotham this time. Because he sees Andrea for the first time in person, and this dinner conversation reminds Bruce of their date at the World Fair as they peek into the fake future of Gotham and what could have been for them. Subsequently, this is also where the third act is going to be set, so we understand this previous connection of Andrea and how the future will always mean heartbreak. As things move along in the relationship, Batman promises to meet Andrea's father, yet he doesn't know what he wants from it. He just knows that Andrea is the perfect person in his life, but Batman is the mission for his life. This is not a part of his destined plan. They get along just fine, but once again, crime is an inevitable force of nature for these characters, as Mr. Valestra has a surprise appointment for Carl. There we see the connection of why he was talking to Arthur, as also within this scene we get introduced to Arthur from a canonical standpoint. He was the assistant. Things do not go well for Carl and the gang, so they have to leave to see that crime is afoot as always in Gotham. But Bruce being Bruce, he must help even without the mask, taking them down kind of one by one as he gets injured enough to scare Andrea. Yet all Bruce cares about is the justice from the thugs. Because we as the audience see through Bruce's eyes, when we see crime being shown firsthand, this gives more fuel to the fire of Bruce's vow, giving Bruce time to think and design a fearful costume as he talks to himself in the manner, wanting to make something that lasts. Like he can't have it both ways.
It's gotta be one or the other. I can't have it both ways.
Bruce can't talk to her. He doesn't know how to feel or want. So going back to the safest place he knows, the people that he can rely on, he's talking to the grave. Talking to the grave, explaining how he can help his Bruce, whether he responds. Not wanting to break the promise, he says that he didn't count on being happy. But with this, Andrea walks in, coming into frame, telling that she is here for him and that they have sent her. Through this simple fixation of how the parents are related to her and how crime is the reason why she's in his life now and in the past, I would just think this is such a good character development for someone who's not even on the screen. But as the future seems so bright, we get reminded that this didn't work out. Batman is more alive than ever as he sits on a rooftop thinking of how it came to be this way. If you have never seen the film and just seen this scene, I think you understand the kind of context and the reason why Bruce Timm and co wanted to make this film. They wanted to make a greater understanding on why Batman does what he does through many different paths than just say he wants to stop crime. He wants to be happy, but he doesn't know how. He wants to be free, but he doesn't figure out how that can be. In between some scenes, we see Arthur and Valestra try to confirm if it is Batman who's coming after a lot of their gang, where Arthur is trying to be a better man, and on the inside, he does not care for crime, but wants to see justice served by simply getting out the car and expressing,
"It's not very healthy in here."
On the other side of the justice, Batman finds out that Chucky, Soul and Buzz are related to Mr. Valestra and how he's going to have company tonight via Batman coming in and trying to find answers. But Alfred is on the more important matters, saying that he needs to see her. They both know that she's in town, but he's afraid of trying to rekindle what was. He goes to their apartment to find a group picture of the old gang as he flashbacks once more to their proposal and the last few days of when he saw Andrea. Within this scene, we realize that he can't do it right. He's going to propose to her, but she has to do it. He has to let Andy do it. Where suddenly, bats swarm up, tormenting Bruce and obviously reminding him that this vow cannot be taken back. At the end of the day, they've proposed, so now they have to tell Carl and others. Alfred already knows as he's driving her to the house, where we see Carl has another surprise appointment from Mr. Valestra, where they say goodbye and realize they have to do it another day.
Alfred.
Miss?
With every good thing that happens in his life, a bad thing must come, but because he's making the Batcave and how the issues of crime has affected him, he gets a letter calling off the proposal, blaming it on timing and being too young, even though earlier he clearly supports their whole relationship and encourages it. We know that something is wrong with this as we go forward in time a little to see Bruce trying on the suit for the first time. Now that Andrea is out of the picture, the plan is stronger than ever. Now we are more up to date with Batman's mindset and how this came to be. We cut back to the real present with a picture and the rundown location of the fair. Mr. Valestra has figured out that there is no other way to take down the Batman, but we get the only person who could, the Joker. And he talks about how they're connected via the past.
Gasp!
And even with this darkish film, Joker always tries to bring the comedy with the bouncy energy and amazing performance of Mark Hamill. I mean, he kicks the dog! He kicks
the dog for no reason. It's not real, but he kicks the dog. Valestra claiming that Batman has gone nuts. Joker only cares if it was his fault that it might have happened. The money doesn't entice him to kill Batman, but because of their past, he takes the job with a nice big smile. Now with the connections in place, Batman waits on Andrea's apartment to see that when she comes in, she's not startled. She knows it's Bruce, as they go back and forth with her pushing him out, with this line saying that she knows Bruce is being controlled by his parents, which is a perfect sum and a great read. Now left alone with no one to lie to, we realize that Andrea is sad because of afterwards you realize that her father is dead and she is lying to everyone around her, but also because Bruce is watching her so closely, she's afraid that she might get caught and be stopped before she can finish her mission by getting the Joker and actually fulfilling her father's death. Moving along, Batman is worse for wear thanks to the cops and kind of everyone chasing him down, thinking that he is still the reason why Mr. Valestra, Chucky Soul and Buzz are dead. Andrea saves him. Because of them finally being connected beyond the mask, they begin to talk about everything, the crimes, the past, and the excellent sense of timing she had to save him. I didn't realize how quickly she would have been there for him and how this is all a fake plot twist, that we see that the meeting was really a beg for money as Carl doesn't have the money for Mr. Valestra. Andrea tells Bruce that it's Carl who's the Phantasm and somehow Batman just believes it and thinks he's back for vengeance. Bruce is left confused once more, but so much has changed with their lives, with visual imagery linking Bruce and Andrea with Thomas and Martha. As Alfred says, I'm sure they wanted you to be happy. But like in every Batman story, we need more twists and turns, and most definitely the Joker. Because we're now in the third act, the animation budget has gone up, with Joker talking to Arthur with this amazing string of lighting and animation changes. Joker taking Arthur out of the picture via some laugh gas, Batman goes to talk in the Arkham Asylum. Arthur got Beaumont murdered for a little bit of money during his first election, which shocks Batman to his core, aligning us with the audience that Andrea is the real Phantasm.
Beaumont? Not the babe?
Because it's actually Andrea, we see the real version of events. Joker killing Kyle and the once again infliction of how crime can affect someone. Martha, Kyle, these parents' deaths altered their lives forever. Obviously, this reveal also gives the foundation of how Bruce and Andrea are one and the same. The parents' death, the complications of crime, and how this leads people to make the wrong choices or the right choices. So now, everyone is on the same page. They go to the Fair of the Future, also get another pinnacle scene on why this movie is such a cult classic.
Look what they did to us! What we could have had!
But Andy, what will vengeance solve?
If anyone knows the answer to that, Bruce, it's you.
Like every Batman film, the Batman must fight someone, so he has to fight the Joker, the reason why the Phantasm exists in the first place. But obviously it's Warner Brothers, so they have to have a little plug in the fight scene. But I will say this fight scene is one of the best I've ever seen in animation, the blood and the tooth, and I love how they're fighting through Gotham City, kind of showing how they're these King Kong and Godzilla type beings. As they're bigger than the city, they are the ideologies of what is right and wrong, you know, two sides of the same coin, if you will. Joker has set some bombs that will randomly go off, stopping everyone in his tracks. Batman, the Phantasm, but not himself. As Joker tries to get away, Batman obviously stops him, and they're all stuck on the ground. Now with no way out, Andrea gets a hold on the Joker, finally finishing what she started. This whole scenario symbolizes their chances of moving on and trying again. Fair explodes, perfectly encapsulating their relationship into a single thought. What could have been is no longer. All it takes is one bad day to pay for a wave of crime. Even with things being worse than ever for them, we see that Alfred tries to cheer up Bruce.
Vengeance blackens the soul, Bruce. I always feared you would become that which you fought against. You walk the edge of that abyss every night. But you haven't fallen in, and I thank heaven for that.
Where we see of the amulet. Andrea really does care for him, but she can't be with him. Andrea and Batman are alone. Andrea on a boat and Batman standing on a rooftop waiting for the bat signal to call. After I finished the film, I sat there in awe as I noticed that this interpretation of the character was the depiction of Martha and Thomas's death that I wanted for so long. For a film that came out in 1993, this to me will always be the origin choice for the Caped Crusader. They didn't use their deaths in a shocking way, but instead focus on how someone might change their perception on life and when a parent is lost. You could argue that Martha and Thomas don't have anything to do with the plot, but in my eyes they are the reason he does what he does.